I'm Teacher Robin. Welcome to another live streaming class. As you can see, we are still in confinement and I'm still recording the classes from my home. So I hope that you are well. I hope that you are managing this situation as well as possible. And today I'm going to talk to you about a topic that's really important and that many students have asked about, which is preparing for a job interview, specifically online job interviews, which is something that you may have to do, especially during this time, the coronavirus situation. You might have to do an online interview before you actually go to the company and do an interview in person. So I'm going to be giving you some tips, some advice. We're going to look at some common questions and some possible answers. And you can always, as usual, write in the comments if you have any questions as we go along. So before we look at some sample questions and answers, let's talk about job interviews in general, some tips, and especially for when we're doing online interviews. So the key thing is to rehearse ahead of time, especially if you're doing a job interview in a language that isn't yours. Like if you're going to do the interview in English and that's not your native language, you want to make sure that you review key vocabulary so that you remember it, so you feel confident with it. Practice these questions and some possible answers that I'm going to give you here in a minute, and make sure that you dress professionally. Now, if you're going to do an online interview, obviously the interviewer is only going to see you probably as you're seeing me now, just the top half of your body. So make sure that what they are seeing is professional. Okay, so today I'm wearing a nice jacket. It doesn't have to be necessarily a formal suit or anything like that, but make sure that you look professional. Make sure that you find a good space. If you're doing it from home, find a good space where it's going to be quiet, where you won't have any interruptions, and make sure that you have a background that looks nice. Okay, so make sure there's nothing embarrassing behind you, like some clothes hanging or things like that. Find a good space, maybe an office type setting with some books, or maybe a nice decoration that looks nice so that you look professional when you're doing the online interview. Okay, so rehearse ahead of time, make sure you know what you want to say, and then you will feel confident that you can answer any question asked when you go into this interview. Let's look at some key vocabulary that will be really important for you to use during an interview. So the first one is your skills. These are the things that you know how to do well. So how can we talk about these skills? You can say things like, I can, I am good at. Something more advanced would be, I am proficient in, or I am well-versed in. So you apply this to the different skills related to your job. So I am well-versed in Photoshop, I am good at working on a team, etc. So these are the kind of skills, this is the kind of grammar that you want to use when you're talking about your skills. You will also be asked about your work experience. Okay, so this is what you've done in the past or where you are currently working, so your previous job experience. So here you would use the present perfect if you're talking about a job where you are still working. So you could say, I have worked at ABBA English for 4 years, for example. Or if it's something that's finished, that's in the past, you can say, I worked, okay, past simple, I worked at this company for 6 months. Probably the first question you will be asked in an interview, the most common question is, tell me about yourself. So this is the opportunity for you to tell the interviewer about your work experience. So you don't need to give a long explanation of your likes and dislikes and your history. No, this is where you actually focus on why you are perfect for this job. So you highlight again your skills and the skills that are relevant to the job that you are applying for. Another question that you will probably be asked is, what are your strengths? And on the other hand, what are your weaknesses? Okay, a strength is something that you are good at, the best part about you. And your weaknesses is something that you need to improve, something possibly negative. But most employers will ask both questions. So some examples of some common strengths are things like teamwork, organization. You can be a strong communicator. You can be comfortable with public speaking, etc. So on the other hand, with weaknesses, if an employer says, what is your greatest weakness? You might want to focus on one that is not directly related to the job. Think of something, if you say, I am not good or I don't enjoy public speaking, but maybe you're applying for a job where you don't have to do public speaking, then that's okay. Or another way to talk about weaknesses is to talk about improvement. So at first you had this weakness, but then you practiced and you improved. So this could be your level of English. At first, I didn't have a very good level of English, but I studied and I practiced every day, and now I feel more confident. Or I wasn't good at public speaking or giving presentations, but I practiced, I did a lot more presentations, and I prepared well, and now I feel confident doing it. So it's important to, when talking about weaknesses, to give an example of how you have improved, or talk about something that isn't directly related to the specific job that you're applying for. Another question that you might be asked is, if you are still working at another company, the employer might say, why do you want to leave your current job? So this is not the time to be negative or to say bad things about your boss or your coworkers or anything like that. This is the time to say that you want to look for new opportunities and highlight again the strengths that you have that are related to this new job that you're applying for. So be very careful with this question and do not say anything negative about your current job. Simply look for a different opportunity. All right, and one of the final questions that you will most likely be asked is, why should we hire you? Okay, so this is your moment to shine. This is where you need to, again, highlight your skills, but make sure that you highlight something that makes you specifically really special and something that makes you perfect for this job. So don't say something really generic. Try to think about something that is specific to this company, and that's why it's really important to research ahead of time. So go to the company website, have a look on LinkedIn, talk to people. So find out as much as you possibly can about the company in general and the specific job that you're applying for. So when you are asked, why should we hire you, you can think of the perfect answer that is specific to you. So to wrap up, before I ask you some questions, for job interviews, dress professionally, be on time. This is easier if it's an online interview, but if it's an interview at a company, make sure you look up the address of the company, you know exactly how to get there, which metro, which bus, or how long it takes walking, and be there at least 10 minutes ahead of that time or even more, and just have a coffee next door or something. Make sure that you are not late to your interview. And again, if you're doing an online interview, as I said, the perfect background, find a good background. Let your roommates know if you share an apartment that you need some quiet time. And also Make sure that you have the right equipment. So for example, when I film live streaming classes, I use a microphone. So make sure that you have the right pair of like headphones or a microphone or something. Check the sound quality of your computer, your laptop. Make sure that you are going to be able to hear the interviewer clearly and understand what they're saying. So this is really key when preparing for an online interview. So now in the comments, I want you to tell me what are some of the most complicated interview questions for you. Have you ever been in an interview situation and you were asked a question and you thought, I don't know how to answer this question. What can I say? So tell us in the comments and we will prepare something for you. So I'm interested to hear your questions, and you can also just say hello, where you're joining from, etc. So we always encourage students to participate in the comments. And while you're doing that, I want to remind you about all the advantages that you have of studying English with ABBA, specifically if you're looking into learning English for business, for applying for jobs. We have you covered. We have lots of material about that. So we have our complete course, which goes all the way to the business level. So our course is available on an app or on web forms, so you can study both ways. And we also have the, if you study with the app, we have the live English feature. So we have new content every day, and we have tons of content related to business, interviews, how to prepare a presentation, how to make a good impression, etc. So we have all kinds of good content there. You can also follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, etc. So we have so many opportunities for you to improve your English with us at ABBA. So check it out if you haven't already, and I look forward to reading your questions. So I hope that this class has been useful for you. Again, I hope that you are doing well and managing during this confinement period, and I hope that you're making the most of it. In a previous video, I talked about some hobbies, so you can take this time to add a new skill, to learn a new skill, and that could be something fun, that could be cooking, that could be doing exercise, etc. Or it could also be preparing for a job interview if that is something that you are looking to do in the near future. So use these tips, prepare well, and I wish you the best of luck. So I'll see you next week. Bye.